SpaceX, Anthropic, you also have OpenAI. Here is the real reason why they're having an IPO, and it's something that they're not really telling you. And the fact is, on May 1st, a rule changed, and your retirement account is the exit liquidity. So the NASDAQ called it a technical update. What it actually does is remove every guardrail that would have slowed the transfer of trillions of dollars from passive retirement accounts to early AI investors at peak valuations. The pieces are documented. Nobody assembled them until now. Okay. Now, here's the craziest thing. These are three companies. We're talking about $4 trillion worth, the largest IPO class in human history. And the mechanism, with no decision point on the people that are just naturally passively investing, is that your 401k buys automatically with no vote, no analysis, no opt-out. And this is exactly how it works, okay? So passive investors that are essentially working a job, white collar, blue collar, they're just putting their money into like a 401k or IRA. That has turned into a $35 trillion pool. Now, what they do with that is just put it in an index fund. So that's $600 billion plus, tracks the NASDAQ 100. And then it's forced into IPO stock of SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic. So the real people that win from this are the VCs and early investors that make a bunch of money, leaving all these people that don't even know what they're putting their 401k or their IRA to holding the bag. Okay? So just think about this. That's the pool. The mechanism is the automatic index addition and the NASDAQ fast entry rule. The rule that determines who gets into the index, how fast, and at what weighing. And this literally changed on May 1st, 3 weeks before the announced IPO window. So here are the three changes 3 weeks before the IPO window. So before, the old rule was, oh, you have to wait up to a year before index entry waiting period. Now it's only 15 days. So the fact is mandatory buying begins in 3 weeks, not 12 months. Another one is minimum float required. Before you needed a 10% free float, right? Now it's eliminated, so low float IPOs now eligible. SpaceX planned 4 to 5% float, no longer disqualifying. And then now you have an index weighing for less than 20% of the float, weighted at actual float. But now with a 3x multiplier, funds must buy more stock than supply justifies. This demand inflated 3x by the rule, okay? So the insider position for the ones that got in early, right, is they need buyers that cannot say no. That is exactly what your 401k is. Early investors hold hundreds of billions of dollars in paper gains. To realize them, they need a non-discretionary buyers, entities that must purchase regardless of price when index rules mandate it. Passive funds are structurally incapable of saying no. So retirement funds and pension funds will be used to build out AI infrastructure. This was said by Larry Fink of BlackRock. And then you could literally see how much their money would turn into. So Microsoft invested in OpenAI, that 13 billion would turn into 40 billion plus. Google and Amazon into Anthropic, that's 10 billion, turn into 30 billion. Early investors of SpaceX, Fidelity, Google Ventures, it's literally turned into 500 billion plus. So passive retirement funds equals non-discretionary exit buyers. Does that make sense? So SpaceX, we're talking about 1.75 trillion for three businesses bundled together. Okay. But what most people don't see is the rockets profitable, Starlink profitable, 11 billion a year, 63% profit margins, but XAI has no profitability path visible. And this burns and loses $1 billion a month. But the combined result is lost $5 billion last year, and this is listed at $1.75 trillion. So the thing that no one really sees, because when you see kind of like all these news articles and like the earnings going up and everyone like super excited on how everyone in AI is like making essentially money, what happens is you have this thing known as the circular money machine where each one flows money to other companies, inflating their actual earnings. And you have it Microsoft, Google, Meta, Oracle, and even with the best case, assuming zero operating costs, they're still at a negative net loss, okay? Now, the PE, or the pricing to earnings ratio, what investors see if it's a fair price or not, it looks fine. Now, that's the problem. In normal bubbles, price up and the earning flats, the PE screams, oh, it's a bubble, it's a bubble. But in an earnings bubble, price up, earnings up, artificially, PE looks healthy, but the bubble is hidden inside the earnings calculation. The IPO that's about to happen forces the mark to market. And then this is exactly what happens, okay? It looks normal, but when historical parallels where PE looked fine until the mark-to-market moment, like bank earnings in 2007, home builders earnings in 2006, Enron in 1999, and LTCM in 1998, literally historically before every single big bubble collapse, it wasn't actually a beautiful picture. So the biggest IPOs arrive at peak excitement, and that peak excitement usually equals like market peak. It's kind of like the age-old saying from like Warren Buffett, you want to sell when others are greedy, you want to buy when others are fearful. Right now, we are literally moving into the biggest, greediest period of speculation known to man. And every parabolic semiconductor cycle, same ending every time. So you literally have early 2000s peak and then crash at negative 60%. Then you have peak near 2007, crash at 50%. You have NVIDIA peak and then crash at 53%. And then you have now. So I'm wondering, how bad is it going to be? Now, both paths lead to higher results, and the higher yields unwind everything. So with the Strait of Hormuz closed, oil that might approach $150 plus per barrel, countries selling treasuries, yields rising, or Warsh fights inflation, rates up, AI spending stalls, both paths converge on higher yields at the worst possible moment. Peak AI valuations, 3 largest IPOs in history. You can see, regardless what Kevin Warsh does, the Fed chair, he literally has an impossible choice. Regardless what he does, it's going to lead to higher yields with both paths converging here, and the circular accounting that has been propping up the PE ratios and the pricing and earning ratios of all these AI companies are going to begin to unwind. Okay? And the craziest thing is when you invest in the things that make you diversified, like index funds, the passive investing. But now diversified means 49% AI. You were never told that. So AI-related stocks represent 49% of the S&P's 500 market cap. 41 of 500 stocks, nearly half the index. 3 more AI IPOs are about to be added automatically. The word diversification no longer means what it meant in 2005. Okay, this is why it's kind of getting a little bit scary. But what you can actually do is not to panic, because you can have informed agency, and these are the 5 moves you could do. Number 1, know what you own right now. Check your 401k, find out the AI concentration percentage, and know your exposure before the IPOs, not after. 2, understand passive versus active funds. Passive cannot say no to index additions. Active can. There's a cost to that choice. Make it consciously. Number 3, you don't have to buy at IPO. The stocks trades after listing. You can wait for price discovery. You are not required to be the opening day buyer. 4, classic diversification tools exist. You have index funds, small cap values, tips, bond ladders. Not as exciting, but that's the point. And then the 5th one, separate the technology thesis from the pricing question. AI may be transportative, but SpaceX may genuinely be imported, but that doesn't determine whether the current price is fair, okay? And the rules change. Your money is the exit liquidity. Now you know the mechanism, and the companies may be real, the technology may work, but none of that changes who benefits from the mechanism. And it's not us. Okay, it's the early investors that now want to have a big payday, right? Now, one thing that I'm curious about is make sure you send this to anyone who has a 401k and has not yet heard of the NASDAQ fast entry rule. And do you think that the AI boom is real value or the biggest bubble in history? Tell me what you think in the comments below.